Hello, my name is Kevin Patton and I'm a therapist in Hackney. We may not have caused our problems, but we do have a responsibility to change things for the better. This means showing up in our experiences and doing something that will bring more joy and meaning into our lives. Our minds are chattering to us all the time. If we're to start living life as we want to live it, we're going to need a little less conversation, a little more action, baby. This is the 5th session in the program. We're going to begin in a few minutes, but first we're going to spend some time coming into the room. Find a comfortable position, either sitting on a cushion on the floor or on a chair. Sit tall with your back straight, but shoulders relaxed, and let your hands rest in your lap. Gently close your eyes. And let's take 3 deep, slow breaths to begin. I'd like you to identify a negative emotional reaction that you've had this week and practice the following steps. Briefly describe to yourself the situation leading up to your emotion. What is the emotion's name? Anxiety, depression, fear, anger, disgust. How uncomfortable did you feel? 0 to 100, 0 being no suffering, 100 being the worst you or anyone else could ever feel. Observe your emotion, step back from the emotion and describe the experiences, your thoughts, urges, bodily sensations, what parts of your body were involved. Identify and describe any parts of the experience that come and go like a wave, like the thoughts, the bodily sensations, the urges. And describe your efforts to let them come and go without trying to push them away or cling to these experiences. Go over in your mind how it is that you are not your emotion, and how you can have an emotional urge without acting on it. Think back to times when you've experienced an urge but not acted on it. How long did it take for your worry about this emotion to go down? Describe parts of your emotional reaction that you're open to accepting. Now rate how much you are suffering from this emotion after practicing this skill. 0 to 100, 0 no suffering, 100 the worst you or anyone else could ever feel. What was it like to connect to the observing self? Sometimes during an exercise, issues that have been suppressed from time to time begin to rise to the surface. Whether things that you've noticed that you may have repressed in the past, what kind of experiences were these? What was it like to notice them? How did you deal with them? Gently open your eyes. Take a breath. Our last video was about accepting difficult feelings without being controlled by them. And this video is about having realistic goals. We've already looked at diffusion, acceptance. Today we're looking at realistic goals, which is the third in the DARE skill set, and we will look at embracing values in another video. A couple of sessions ago, we looked at the DARE skill set and how breaking the issue down into small steps can help us find things less overwhelming. We're going to spend a bit of time looking at these steps. A key focus to keeping it real is setting our goals guided by our values. So before any goal setting, it's useful to clarify how these goals resonate with our values. Before we even look at steps, we need to be looking, are we going up the staircase or are we going down it? We need a direction of travel. Years ago, I used to be a housing advisor, and when I asked people what they were looking for, they'd often tell me that they wanted a one-bedroom flat in Sloane Square. Now, as you can imagine, this wasn't really something I could help them with. They weren't really telling me what they wanted. They were telling me what they thought would help them get what they wanted. When we broke it down, they wanted independence from their family, privacy, the ability to socialize and be hospitable, some respect from people, etc. And while a one-bedroom flat in Sloane Square might help them bring some of this into their lives, there were lots of other things that could do this as well. So ask yourself, what's important to you? What do you want more of in your life? We're going to spend some time looking at this in our next session. Just now, it's enough to think about what it is about a particular situation that's making it a problem for you. And when setting goals, it makes sense to look at things that you can actually do. I mean, while it would be really nice if everyone loved you, that isn't something that you can make happen. How other people feel, what they do, are not things that you can control. The things that you control are what you do and say and how you relate to what you experience. So goal setting in real life means getting some problem-solving skills, and we can start by answering 3 questions. Where am I? Where do I want to go? How am I going to get there? When setting goals, it's helpful to talk about what you will do, something a living person can do, rather than something you won't do. For example, I might decide that I don't want to eat cake, and in my efforts not to eat cake, I drink whiskey instead. If anyone is confused as to why this isn't a good idea, we will cover this later in a video around self-care. For now, we'll settle on setting ourselves live man's goals, not dead man's goals, goals that a dead person can do better than you. Dead man is never going to beat his wife, for example, but he'll never be able to build a better relationship with his wife, which presumably is what he wants. The idea is to do things that will move you towards your goal rather than away from something you're trying to avoid. By setting your goal in terms of something you want to do, you're already setting yourself up to think about how you might do it. When you set goals in terms of things you want to stop doing, you're still left with the task of working out what you're going to do to achieve this. Setting realistic goals requires that we have some idea of where we're at, what we want, and how we'll get it. We start by looking at our situation. Rudyard Kipling had a set of questions to help trigger ideas and solve problems, and he immortalized them in this poem. I have 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. I call them what and where and when and how and why and who. These questions can be used to get thinking going in many situations. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. If you're having some kind of difficulty, you might ask yourself, what is actually happening? When it's happening, who's involved, when it's happening, why it's a problem. The why it's a problem sets you up for looking at what you would actually prefer by identifying what is it that the current situation is getting in the way of. For example, someone playing loud music at 2 a.m. isn't a problem if you are having a party too. It is a problem if it's getting in the way of you sleeping well. What you want is to sleep well. Getting them to stop the music might be one way of sleeping well. Once you've decided what you really, really want, it's time to look at how you're going to get it. We used to call this brainstorming. There was a fashion in the late 80s to start calling it a thought shower. Whatever. Make a list of everything that you might possibly do to get your outcome, especially those you haven't tried before. The more the merrier, at least 10 things. Get other people to throw some things in as well. It doesn't matter how outlandish these ideas might be, just get them in there. The time to choose between them comes later. What are some solutions that worked in the past? For each and every option you generated, I'm going to weigh up some pros and cons. So we're going to look at disadvantages. It's a -2 if it affects you personally. It's a -1 if it affects someone else. It's a -2 if it's a long-term effect that it has on you. And it's -1 if it's a short-term effect. And we look at the advantages. You give it a +2 if it affects you personally, a +1 if it affects someone else, a +2 if it's a long-term effect, and a +1 if it's a short-term effect. Now you just get rid of all the options in which the costs outweigh the benefits. And then grade the others by how much the benefits outweigh the costs. The option with the highest score looks like the one to try. Now, your plan is far more likely to be successful if you work on a maximum of 3 tasks at any given time. If you take on too much, then no matter how much has been achieved, if you don't perform well in one of the tasks, you can lose confidence in the whole plan and it can grind to a halt. So we're going to look at SMART goals. Now, everyone's got a slightly different way of unpacking this. So please just don't take it for granted that you've heard everything I'm saying. Other people use different letters in the acronym to mean different things. So your goal has to be specific. Otherwise, you won't be able to focus your efforts or truly feel motivated to achieve it. What is it that you want to accomplish? Why is this goal important? Who is involved? Where it's located? And which resources or limits are involved? An example might be, I want to develop the stamina to run 4 laps of the football pitch in the local park so that I can build my physical and mental resilience and start taking my life back. It has to be measurable. It's important to have measurable goals so you can track your progress and stay motivated. Assessing progress helps you stay focused, meet your deadlines, and feel the excitement of getting closer to achieving your goal. A measurable goal should address questions such as how much, how many, how will I know when it's been accomplished? You might measure a goal of developing the stamina to run 4 laps in the football pitch by determining that you'll be able to run a lap within 3 weeks. Has to be attainable. Your goal also needs to be realistic and attainable if it's going to be successful. In other words, it should stretch your abilities but still remain possible. When you set an achievable goal, you will be able to identify previously overlooked opportunities or resources that can bring you closer to it. An achievable goal will usually answer questions such as, how can I accomplish this goal? What resources do I need to do this? How realistic is the goal based on other constraints such as time, money, health, relationships, other commitments I have, whatever. You might need to ask yourself whether developing the stamina to run a lap of the football pitch within 3 weeks is realistic based on your existing level of fitness and time commitments. For example, do you have the time to complete the required training effectively? Are the necessary resources available to you? Can you afford to do it? Some tips here would be, don't set goals that someone else has power over. For example, get that promotion depends on who else applies and on the recruiter's decision. But get the experience and training that I need to be considered for a promotion, that's entirely down to you. Has to be relevant. This step is ensuring that your goal actually matters to you and that it also aligns to other relevant goals. We all need support and assistance in achieving our goals, but it's important to retain control over them. So make sure that your plans drive everyone forward, but that you're still responsible for achieving your goal. A relevant goal answer will answer yes to these questions. Does this seem worthwhile? Is this the right time? Does this fit in with our other efforts and needs? For example, you might want to develop the stamina to run 4 laps of the football pitch, but is this the right way to build up your resilience? Is this the right time to undertake the required training? If you want to start a family, would be completing the training in your free time make this more difficult? Every goal needs to be time bound. It needs a target date so that you will have a deadline to focus on and something to work towards. This part of the SMART goal criteria helps to prevent everyday tasks from taking priority over your longer-term goals. Time-bound goal will usually answer these questions. When? What can I do 6 months from now? What can I do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? An example might be developing the stamina to run 4 laps of the football pitch may require additional training, as we mentioned earlier. How long will it take you to build up your stamina? It's important to give yourself a realistic time frame for accomplishing the smaller goals that are necessary to achieving your final objective. And the biggest part of problem solving, built into every problem solving approach, is don't give up. If the problem is not solved as you had hoped, don't give up. See if you can figure out why the solution didn't work. Was there something that worked partially but not completely? Would it be better to break the problem down into smaller problems and tackle one of these instead? Identify new potential solutions and make another action plan. Most important, don't give up and don't ignore the problem. So it's good to kind of look at what the outcome was that you were after, what strengths you identified in trying to sort this out, what difficulties you identified, and start to scope out your next steps, what you're going to do, what needs to be done, who's going to do it, what help you can get along the way, what else can you bring in as allies, when you're going to do it by. So we're going to look at the SODAS model again in terms of when something didn't work out the way you wanted it to. What went well? Who was involved in this? What was difficult? When and where did it happen? Why was this a problem? Why was this a problem? Sets you up for looking for what you would actually prefer by identifying what it is about the current situation that got in the way of what you wanted to do. Make a list of everything you might possibly do. Again, another 10, especially those you haven't tried before. Get advice from others. Again, doesn't matter how crazy or outlandish these ideas might seem, just get them there. You can choose between them later. Remember what we did last time. So include some of the things that worked a bit and see how they can be slightly changed. And for each one, weigh up your pros and cons. And then the one that scores highest looks like it's a possible winner for you to go for. Again, keep the rule of 3 in mind. Don't overburden yourself with too many tasks to do. If you take too much on, you remember the one that doesn't work and you start to get the impression that nothing you do is ever going to work. don't give up. It's a cycle. You keep going back and refining and tweaking your possible strategies and solutions. Now, we looked at a way of breaking down big problems into a series of achievable steps. We noted that we needed to have a direction of travel. How we need to break things down so that we can actually do them. Some things have to happen before others. We looked at what was in our circle of control, what wasn't inside our circle of control. We explored the sawdust method of problem solving. We looked at SMART goals. We acknowledged the importance of not giving up. We reevaluate what we actually want and finding another way of making it happen. How might you use this stuff to help you towards getting the life you want to live? Living life the way you want it. This is my email and my phone number. Please feel free to contact me if you have any thoughts or questions about any of the things we've discussed. Thanks a lot for watching.